Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good day, good morning, good whatever, wherever you're at. It could be midday, it could be morning time. You could be across the world right now watching 4th and 10U. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. A brand new episode. It has been the longest summer ever. People are probably wondering, where'd you guys go? We thought you guys, closed up shop and left. No, we didn't close up shop. We didn't leave, right? We just had a summer. I had a huge summer planned with my kids, which went well. Had a great time this summer. Just a lot going on. I got a 4-year-old that just started school. It's got a lot of stuff going on, right? Mike is still here. Yes, I'm here by myself tonight. But we got a new format that we're trying out, right? Shows are going to be a little bit shorter. We're going to try to provide more information, meaningful information, and just keep it moving. And we're going to do that every week. I got a matchup to break down tonight. That's going to be a big matchup for week 1 that we're going to talk about. I know some of you, and I mean some of you, probably want me to talk about this, right? You probably want me to talk about this. Well, I'm not going to talk about this on this show. If you want to see that episode, it's coming out soon. I will have a full thought process where I put out all my thoughts on the hammer that should have hit Michigan, but it didn't. But that's okay. You check out that episode. I'll be advertising once it comes out. It deserves its own episode. So not tonight, but another time. So yes, Mike is still around. He's busy with life. Life gets in the way, but he'll be back. But for right now, it's going to be me for a hot minute. Like I said, this is going to be a shorter show. Just like me on the screen, I'm much shorter right now. Back, here we go. It's going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit more structure behind it. We're going to start having a lot more special guests on the show. Some of our older content that's from our other channel, right? If you haven't checked it out, it's called the Finn's Tailgate. Go check them out. Stuff that we have on there, we're going to slowly start pulling over here, right? So you guys are going to start seeing that as well. But today, man, the news is already out. I had a game plan. I was going to come in and talk about a specific matchup. That's what we were going to break down today, right? And lo and behold, news breaks. What was that news? Let's talk about it. Breaking news: the SEC is moving to a 9-game conference football schedule starting in 2026. The league announced. Breaking news. Well, what does this mean? In a landmark move for college football, the SEC today announced that beginning in 2026, its member institutions will now transition from 8 games to 9-game conference schedule. This shift aligns with a lot of the other Power 4 conferences that are out there, the Big 10, the Big 12, etc. With that being said, what has been said by the commissioner is that essentially adding a 9th SEC game underscores our university's commitment to delivering the most competitive football schedule in the nation, right? The format projects rivalries, increased competitive balance, and ensures SEC teams are well prepared to compete and succeed in college football playoff. That is really interesting, don't you think? I think so. Let me drop this off the screen. Sorry about that. That is really interesting about what they have to say, that it adds more competitiveness to the game. What happened to the SEC before? Why did it go away? Right? The last couple of years, the Big 10 and other conferences have been kind of putting a number on the SEC. So it is very, very interesting what why they think this has to be done now. Why are they making the changes now? Whereas other teams in other conferences like the Big 10 and Big 12 have already transitioned. They did this back, I want to say that Big Ten, I think, did it back in 2013. It's either 2013 or 2016. They already transitioned to this, right? Are you trying to tell me that the SEC is nothing but like an Apple iPhone? It's 4 years behind everybody else. My friend messaged me the other day. It's like, man, I'm so excited. I upgraded my phone. I got the new iPhone and I have 5G finally. I was like, finally? I've had that like 10 years ago. That's how I feel about the SEC making this move now. It's almost like they know that other conferences got the jump on them and they need to play catch up. All right. I think overall for the fans, it'll be more exciting. They still continue to get their rivalry games. So they'll have 3 games that are fixed no matter what. That's to ensure that they get their rivalry games played still. So they're not losing out on that. The other 6 games will be rotating, right? So essentially, every team in the SEC will get to play every other SEC team every 2 years. So in a 2-year span, they would have played everybody. That's essentially how they're going to rotate it. But ultimately, let's be real. A lot of this really comes down to making sure there's more competition means more dollars, more buckets in the seat, more exposure, more games. It all comes down to profits. Really, that's really what it comes down to. I think trying to pad your stats based on how many teams you played within your own conference to get the jump on the college football playoff. I personally think that's kind of it's kind of we're doing this because we know we can't compete, right? I don't know. You should have done this a while ago, personally. That's just me. But let's keep it moving. So that's kind of big news for today. Was really interesting. I wonder why they haven't played, haven't moved to this previously. But yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Let's keep pushing to the next thing. So what else happened today? Breaking news. Actually, not really breaking news, but it got mentioned today. Notre Dame football is changing their leprechaun logo for the first time in 60 years, right? If people don't know, let me give you a little bit of history about the Notre Dame logo. First of all, during the 1920s to 1960s, the original mascot for Notre Dame, if you're old enough to remember that, I'm definitely not. My grandfather barely could tell me. May he rest in peace. It was an Irish Terrier. They used to have this little Irish Terrier, a dog on the sidelines, and that was their original mascot. Sometime in the 1960s, eventually some students decided to dress up as a leprechaun and be part of the cheer squad. And he would stand near the Irish Terrier as well on the sideline. That became a huge hit. And in 1965, they finally adopted the logo, right? The logo that we know now that was really about the Irish heritage, especially the tendencies to want to fight and whatnot. And that's how the Fighting Irish was eventually born, right? They have finally decided after 60 years to change the logo. Now they're moving to a more sports specific redesign where you'll see as you can see in the logo here on the screen, where the leprechaun's holding a football, right? They're moving more from a fighting Irish to a competitive Irish. I'm sorry. I think you should leave up the fix, put up the Dukes. It's the fighting Irish. We all know what it's about, right? I'm a huge Ohio State fan, but I respect Notre Dame. I joke around with my buddies that we talk Big Ten football. I always talk about Notre Dame being the stepbrother of all the Big Ten teams because that's how we feel that they are. They're right in our region. They're right next door to us. And a lot of their players know our players, went to school with our players, and whatnot. So I think they should have left it alone. I appreciate the legendary history behind the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and especially their mascot. I don't think you mess with traditions that way, right? That's why I appreciate them. But it is what it is. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments below, not in the chat because we don't have one because this won't be aired live. But put it in the comments. after the show when it's done. I want to know, what do you guys think? Should they keep the Notre Dame logo as is, or do you like the new rendition with the football? It kind of makes the Notre Dame leprechaun kind of look kind of cartoony, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I kind of, every time I've ever thought about, someone that's Irish or been at an Irish pub, you got guys that have beef that just want to fight just that for the heck of it, right? That's why I liked the leprechaun with the dukes up. That's my opinion. What are your guys' thoughts? All right, enough of that. So, going back to some thoughts here about what we got going on. It is very interesting. This season is starting to pop a lot. We're about almost 10, we're about 10 days away from games being played. Actually less than 10 days. We have like maybe a week, right? So it'll be very, very interesting what happens in week one. I want to do a breakdown of each of the top 5 week one matchups, right? And we're going to start with one right now that I think is going to set the tone. This game is going to be very, very important to both games. Before we get into that, though, actually, before we get into that, put in the comments what you think is the top must-win matchup game. Out of all the top 5 matchups, what is the must-win game for that you think whatever team you support has to win, or whatever team, even if it's a team that you don't support, but they have to win, like to set the whole tone? Let me know what that is. But let's break it down. Let's break it down. So August 31st, we're starting off with Notre Dame versus the U. That is right. Some people say the who. Yeah. But it's the Hurricanes. I live down here in South Florida. It is starting to amp up. The Hurricane fans are starting to chirp and talk. And I see them all over Twitter in spaces as I'm passing along people. And we got the Notre Dame. I'm sticking it with Notre Dame, right? Notre Dame after a crushing loss against Ohio State. And I say crushing because I know a lot of the Fighting Irish fans really thought luck was going to be on their side. They really thought they had a chance. And especially in that first drive when they were really, really trying to bring it to the Ohio State Buckeyes, they thought maybe there could be something there. But it didn't turn out the way they wanted. But not all is lost. You guys really outperformed even what I thought you guys were going to do in the run that you had, right? What you guys did before you had to play Ohio State was remarkable. What you did to Penn State was remarkable, right? So for me, I think that it's a great thing. You're going into this game. I think you both teams, both Notre Dame and Miami, have something on the line. But let's talk about it, right? So, let's set the setting. This is going to happen in Hard Rock Stadium. It's going to be loud. It is going to be hot. It's a high stakes road game against number 10 Miami, right? The Hurricanes' perspective is that head coach Mario Cristobal has touted it as a incredible opportunity. Yes, it's an opportunity to set the tone for your season. The Miami Hurricanes have been this train going up this hill. You ever heard of the I think it's Tommy the Train or something? I wish I could. I think I can. I think it can. Going up this hill, right? And you're right when you think they're gonna go over the hump and finally go down steaming hard, they don't. They just fizzle out. We saw it last year. The Miami Hurricanes had one of the best quarterbacks I've seen in a while in the ACC, who ended up being the number 1 overall pick in the NFL, Cam Ward, right? Let's not forget that. And even then, in big games, not even big games, certain games that he should have won, he couldn't get the job done. He was in a shootout versus Syracuse, right? Kyle McCord, former Ohio State quarterback, and versus Cam Ward. That was an amazing battle. It was great. I didn't know who was going to win. And they really stuck it to the Hurricanes. Games against California. Now, they won, right? They had to do a miraculous comeback and actually win that game. Cal still put up a huge fight. And it only amounted to nothing but an appearance at a Pop-Tart Bowl, right? That's what happened with Miami Hurricanes' wishes. They didn't get the playoff berth I thought they would. Even though they had one of the most exciting offenses with an exciting quarterback, it didn't happen. So, and each year the stakes are getting larger and larger. I personally think that Mario Cristobal is on the hot seat. He has to prove that he's the guy this year. He has to pull out all the stops and he has to win. This is a must-win game, not only for Mario Cristobal's sake, right? But also to set the tone for his team for this season, right? Carson Beck, yeah, he came from Georgia, but he's coming off of an injury, had surgery, right? A lot of players left that team, so that offense is really not even the same, right? And can that defense perform, right? Those are questions I have for Miami. Notre Dame. So Notre Dame stakes are for a team that made it to the national championship game last year, opening against a top 10 opponent, sets you right back up just to be able to go down that path again, as I said earlier, right? They have some new stuff going around. They just announced a new quarterback, right? I think his name is CJ Carr, right? So that is going to be interesting. They have a new defensive coordinator, and in changes on the offensive line. They got a lot of changes at Notre Dame. So this is an opportunity for both teams, both Notre Dame and the Hurricanes, both for Notre Dame's head coach and Miami's head coach. It will be very, very interesting, right? Let's talk about the quarterbacks real quick. CJ Carr, a redshirt freshman out of the class of 2025, and a former four-star athlete, right? Four-star recruit. Carr hails from he's from Michigan, just so you're aware. He also what else can I say about him? His college playing experience is extremely limited. I think he got to play one game last season with no pass attempts, none at all. So he's kind of like an unknown. We really don't know what's going to happen with CJ Carr. Can he rise to the occasion? Then you have a very seasoned Carson Beck, right? Marcus Freeman, I'm sorry, Carson Beck. I apologize. Carson Beck came from the University of Georgia. Was one of the best in the country at one point, people were saying, right? He gets injured, has surgery, and instead of sticking with his team, he decides to venture down south. Nice weather, upcoming team, try to reinvent himself, right? Maybe increase that draft stock. Very similar to what Cam Ward did, if you remember. It'll be very interesting what he does. I'm very interested to see what Carson Beck does, what he will look like. Will he have the receivers do him favors? And why I say do him favors is I think for Mario Cristobal, he needs to balance it out where the pressure's not just all on his quarterback. I think he needs to balance it out where it allows his players to play for each other rather than one individual, right? I don't want to see that again with like we saw with Cam Ward. The guy played in the first half of the Pop-Tart Bowl and then sits down after he, breaks the record. I don't want to see that. That's just my thoughts. But who's going to win this game, right? I think it's going to be exciting. I'm gonna take a gamble here. I'm gonna take a real gamble. My heart thinks Notre Dame is gonna win this, But I have a feeling Miami with the home crowd, right? Carson Beck and a coach that needs to put it all on the line because he knows he has to prove something. I'm going to say that Miami does upset Notre Dame 24-31. That's my prediction. I might be wrong. I might be really off. Notre Dame might beat the hell out of Miami. But that's my prediction. I think Miami generally surprises me, at least with one game. This could be that game. And we'll see what happens. I think Carson Beck, if he's anything like the quarterback he used to, I think with his experience and what his ability I know that he had, it'll be very interesting what happens. That's what I got to say. Tell me, what do you guys think? Who do you guys think is going to win this game? Is it going to be Notre Dame? Is it going to be University of Miami? It'll be very interesting. Will that Miami still have that strong running game that they've had previously, right? Will they be able to find a new receiver that's going to be able to take them down the field and march into the end zone? Will Miami or Notre Dame, be able to play defensively at the level that they did? Memory serves me right. Notre Dame had a really strong defense last year, right? Some of those guys are gone. I know their starting safety is gone. Some of that offensive linemen that they had are gone. They did bring in a lot of recruits and whatnot. So it'll be very interesting what they do. What team do they have? Does Marcus Freeman have Notre Dame ready to make another run at that national championship? Do they have, does Mario Cristobal have his team prepared to do what he needs them to do this season? Are they going to shock everybody and win the ACC? I don't know, but I'm willing to bet if Miami was going to put it on the line, I think this is the game you need to. I think this is what you need to do. That's why I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, right now, might be too soon, but right now my gut is telling me that I have a feeling Miami is going to win this game. That's just me. Make sure you hit the like button, everybody. If you're new, subscribe to the show. It's great to be back. I know I'm a little bit rusty, but that's fine. It is what it is. Trying to get back into the swing of things. We've been on vacation for this whole summer. And I was like, Mike, it's time. Let's bring back another show. He's still kind of busy, but that's all right. We're going to get it back and going. Like I said, hit the like button. What is the bottom line? Let's not forget about that. So the bottom line today is Miami versus Notre Dame. Who's it going to be, right? Is the Fighting Irish going to continue the success that they had last season? Or are they going to have a slow start under let's just say, very, very rusty or very, very raw red-shirted quarterback? Let's just say that, right? Is the Hurricanes going to win the game with a seasoned winning quarterback that came from a big-time school with big aspirations, right? We know what the Hurricanes fans want. They want to win. They want the trophy. They want to make the playoffs, right? They haven't got to feel like that in years. It's been years, right? South Florida is up in arms now, begging for trophies. Not even at the collegiate level. Don't even get me started on the pro level. But to do that, they have a tough task. They have to beat the Fighting Irish. Can they do it? Put it in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you hit the like button, right? Share it with your friends. If you're new, subscribe. We got a lot more content that's coming out. The next show that I'm about to do soon is going to be about some of the other games, big-time matchups, including that Texas versus Ohio State matchup. That one's going to be huge. So, me and Mike have to talk about it. I'm going to try and do that show soon. That will probably come out Thursday before the game. That's when that one will come out. I'm going to try to do a big time matchup every other day. Thursday, we might have a couple matchup shows that come out all at once. So, you might see that. but it'll be very interesting. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the season to start. I'm excited. I'm already practicing some good recipes and stuff to cook for football Saturdays. Or when I go to the tailgate at games that I go to. Yeah, it's great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait. But thank you for sticking by us. I know we haven't done a show and it feels like ages when the summer started. I'm sorry. Family comes first. You know how it rolls. But with that, I know this is a shorter episode. Just remember, I said we're restructuring things around here. You're going to see more episodes, but shorter. So going to be about 30 to 40-minute long episodes. But with that, I give you guys a due. And until next time, keep it classy.